Welcome to the SoLoMo Show, a weekly podcast hosted by Corey O'Brien, the social media strategist at Heat and author of thefutureofads.com.
And I'm Adam Helway, CEO of the digital marketing agency Secret Sushi Creative.
Each episode, we discuss topics, trends, tactics, and tools related to social, local, and mobile marketing and advertising. Our goal is to give you the information you need to be a better marketer. Today is Wednesday, February 13th, 2013, and this is episode number 56.
In this episode, we're going to discuss real-world testing of responsive web design on retail sites, purchasing products on Twitter with hashtags in American Express, a review of the Screener screencasting tool, and much more. Hola, Corey. How are you doing?
Ricola, Adam.
Ricola. I know you're testing out a little thing over there that you saw. Was it on another podcast or something that they gave you that tip about using a Ricola to help keep your voice nice and sexy during the podcast? Is that what it was?
It was another podcast. It wasn't Ricola specifically. They just said, any throat lozenge. It's good for keeping your voice going because, you talk for an hour and eventually things get a little tired, a little sore. So I'm going to see. It's not something that always is a problem, but there are the occasional episodes where I get to the end and I'm like, ugh, my throat's just dry. It's hard to keep going, so we'll see what happens. But yes, I am the semi-official spokesperson for Ricola this episode.
Tomorrow night is we're doing this a day later than normal, so we're doing it on a Wednesday instead of a Tuesday, and tomorrow night is Valentine's Day, and then they've been talking about President's Day stuff for so many weeks, it seems now, that I couldn't remember which day was President's Day, and then suddenly they're like, okay, well, this is the holiday weekend this weekend, so I guess this weekend is President's Day weekend?
That is correct. Monday is President's Day weekend, so for those people lucky enough to work at a job where you get President's Day off, it's a 3-day weekend coming up. Very exciting.
Oh, do you get it off?
I do indeed. I get Monday off, so I will be relaxing, working on some chores around the house. Should be a nice little 3-day.
Working on chores around the house is essentially code for your wife has asked you to do some things on your day off. Is that what it is?
No. These are self-inflicted chores. I got a couple. I'm installing a new timer in my bathroom fan. All sorts of exciting stuff.
Yeah, you're really utilizing that day off there, huh?
Putting it to good work. Yeah.
So what do we got on our plate today? We got a few interesting little things here, but we got a little data to go over for our infographic / stat of the episode, right?
Yeah, so this is a very good post. I like this post. I will state up front that this is the type of data I wish we saw more of. It's basically companies running specific tests and then sharing the results of those tests to help all of us learn a little more about whether or not the stuff we talk about actually matters. So a company called Electric Pulp, which is a web design and development company, they're always pitching mobile focused design, responsive web design, but they realized that they pitch it and they didn't really have a lot of data to back that up. They're basically telling clients, you should be doing this, but if the client said, well, why? They said, oh, well, it's, I've been reading it on sites. It's the best practice, but they didn't have data to back it up. So they said, all right, well, let's get some data and let's find out if it's actually the case. And one thing that they brought up, which is actually interesting, is that designing a responsive website does add cost to your development cycle. And so if the results of making your site responsive don't actually justify those costs, then maybe it's all for naught. Maybe we shouldn't be doing responsive web design. So they wanted to essentially run a test and figure out, all right, does responsive web design justify the cost involved in actually producing that type of web development? So they are the company behind the O'Neill Clothing e-commerce store. And O'Neill Clothing, it's a popular online retailer. It's been active for a while, so it has a very good baseline of data that they were able to pull from. So they looked at 3 weeks of conversations, transactions, and revenue. They picked out a 3-week period that they felt like one 3-week period could be compared equally to another 3-week period. They would have as close as they could get to relevant data. There is a little bit of seasonality with online shopping, but they said, all right, based on trends, we know that these 3 weeks are equal to those 3 weeks. So they looked at 3 weeks of data using just the existing online store. This was not a mobile optimized store. It wasn't a responsive store. It was just their regular store put onto a mobile device. And then they launched their responsive design, and they did 3 more weeks of data. So they said, okay, we've done some tweaking. We've minimized some of the content. We've minimized the menu structure. We've made the images themselves bigger. We've made text bigger. We've done all the best practices to make a retail website more responsive to the mobile user. Let's see if people actually stay, they buy more, they interact with the site more. Let's see what the data says to back up our intuition. And it turns out the data was great. They looked at both iPhone and Android devices and found that on the iPhone, over that 3-week period when they had rolled out the responsive web design, sale conversions were up 65%, transactions were up 112%, and overall revenue was up 101%. That's a 101% boost in top-line revenue. Huge numbers. And then you jump over into Android, and Android blows those numbers away. They had a 400% increase in conversion, a 333% increase in transactions, and a 591% increase in revenue. And to be fair, part of those large numbers could be due to a smaller baseline number. So, if you take 3 transactions and it goes up to 4, that could be actually, no, that wouldn't be fair. If you take 4 transactions and it goes to 12, that's a 333% increase, even though it's not this monumental jump. But Android, iPhone, across the board, they were seeing huge increases in conversion, transaction, and revenue. And they said that transaction is actually the number that you want to pay attention to. That's, how many people are landing on a site and then eventually buying something. They're not leaving, they're not putting something in the cart and abandoning that. They're actually buying something from a website. So basically the result was, across the board, very large increases in the data that they saw for people going to the O'Neill clothing retail site and actually buying something. It basically, if you're thinking to yourself, looking at my current numbers, if I could increase those by 100% for a small additional cost in web development, both time and financial cost, I would say that for almost every single company out there, that would be a worthy trade-off. That would be money well spent, and a huge boost in revenue, a boost in profits, and it would pay for itself in short order. So seems like responsive web design, not just a sensical thing, but actually backed up by data as being something that an online retailer at this point almost must be doing, because otherwise you're just missing out on huge revenue opportunities.
Yeah, we've been doing responsive web design for a little over a year now, and I think the data that these guys are talking about is, they've likely had to justify that extra cost, or at least they felt that at one point or another they would, and so therefore they put this together. It's going to be a different payout for people who have websites that are, for instance, like O'Neill is an e-commerce site. So conversion for them equals product sold, versus maybe a B2B site, for instance, right, where conversion is a lead, which might lead to dollars, or maybe a blog or some sort of media publication online, which is, that all equals down to, advertising dollars, whatever as well. But the amount of traffic that's consuming it and churning, not just hitting one page, but going to more than one piece of content, and therefore tracking additional page views and so on within the site. So metrics for different people are going to be different metrics of success. And for them, like you said, they were saying the transactions, saying, that it's great that we have a conversion, but if the conversion doesn't turn into an actual, transaction where dollars are exchanging hands. I am a little surprised that Android is so much higher than iOS and iPhone related stuff, primarily because much of what I've heard in the past has been the data talking about how much more iPhone owners end up actually spending. I don't know if it's probably simply because of the amount of people who are using. I expected at least the number of transactions and revenue to potentially be sharply higher than, say, the conversions, but it all kind of sticks within 66%, 110% for the transactions, and then revenue is just about 100%. Everything is staying at about this kind of 100%, give or take, versus the other one, which is like pretty much 4 times that amount for Android. So I am a little bit surprised with that. But overall, for those that don't know much about responsive design, when we talk about an added expense, it is usually, for the most part, a one-time expense. meaning that it isn't ongoing maintenance necessarily that has to be, well, I guess depending on how often you're changing products and such on your site, there may be some considerations you have, but for the most part, it shouldn't add a significant ongoing expense to your website. It's going to be an initial design expense and some technical considerations to be had when you're developing out the site the first time. And the other thing I'd say is at this point they're using this to justify recommending responsive design. Bottom line is from here on out, people need to be thinking about responsive design, and if you're not, you're essentially missing out. You're just basically behind the ball. It's not a cherry on top. It's not icing on the cake. It is going to be a requirement here, considering the fact that all data is pointing to that, this year or next year, very, very soon here, more people are going to be accessing the web via mobile than they are on wired or, desktop computers. And so this is going to become increasingly important just for the sake of getting eyeballs onto your site, even if a conversion is not a part of that equation, even if it's just about disseminating information and being found on a mobile device.
I agree with that. So let's stick with the retail theme here for a little bit and talk about some interesting things that American Express is doing on Twitter with the hashtag. So last March, they rolled out an interesting technology called Card Sync. And basically what this was is American Express users could send tweets with specific hashtags, and if they had registered their American Express card to this Card Sync platform, it would follow their account, and when it saw these hashtags, it would automatically apply specific discounts to their upcoming statement. So, for instance, you could say hashtag 10 at McDonald's. That's not a real one, I just made that up, but hashtag 10 at McDonald's, and it would automatically credit you $10 towards any McDonald's purchase on your future statement. So it was kind of a clever way of getting mobile sharing out of social media, attaching couponing to it, getting a little bit of reward there. American Express gets credit for being innovative. Clever idea, but, really it was just, hey, you send this tweet with this hashtag, we'll give you a $5 coupon in exchange. It was paying for social media promotion. And that was a year ago. They did it. Apparently it worked pretty well because now they are revisiting the idea, but this time they're moving beyond coupons and actually allowing you to purchase things with a single hashtag. And I don't know that they have a specific name for the program. They called it Sync to Buy was the blog post that announced this. But overall, I think this is an interesting idea. It still strikes me as kind of odd. I'm like, how many people really want to buy something with a hashtag, and is that going to work? And it seems a little bit of a stunt type idea, more to market American Express than anything else, than to actually drive real commerce. But I still thought the idea of buying things with a hashtag was an interesting idea. So I wanted to discuss that, get your take on it. And do you think there's something here? Or do you think it really is just a American Express kind of PR style promotion, and we're all talking about them now, but 2 months down the line, everybody's going to be like, hey, remember when we bought stuff with hashtags? That was silly.
I mean, the mechanics of buying with a hashtag is awkward, just like you said. And as I was kind of reading through the story and trying to really understand, like, so what's American Express getting out of this, and what are their cardholders getting out of this, and what are the companies? And so we've talked about American Express being pretty innovative when it comes to making their card is essentially the they're trying to make their card like the social media card of choice, right? Because they've also paired with Facebook on a few things. They've also paired with Foursquare. So, before, and I think still now, when you go out and you check in certain places, and actually I haven't seen it for a while, so maybe they haven't been doing it for a while now, but you could go to certain locations and they would say, if you actually check in, you'll get a $5 discount on your meal of, whatever, $30 or more. And I tried to redeem it at one point, not realizing that you had to be an American Express card holder. And what they're essentially doing is they're crediting it back to you on your American Express card. So you have to use American Express to make the purchase. So in this case, and you were talking about how you tweeted, and then you might get a $5 discount or whatever. So let's take that and say that that's akin to providing an offer. in a way, almost like on Facebook. Okay. It's akin to saying, I want to redeem that offer, or I like that offer. When you click on it, what does it do? It kind of provides some level of awareness on Facebook by basically resharing that and showing other people that you've claimed that particular offer. On Twitter now, it's getting you to tweet out there. And as it was previously, now it's changed a little bit, because not only are you just potentially taking advantage of a discount that's being provided to you, but now you're actually doing the full transaction with it. You're actually saying, I'm syncing my card. So you go to AmericanExpress.com, you actually attach your Twitter name to, via the API to your card, so it knows who you are. You go ahead and you go through this process of tweeting out this hashtag, which provides awareness to these individuals who are likely partners. It's not a ton of people. It's a half dozen vendors here, including Sony and Urban Zen, Amazon, Microsoft's Xbox. So they're very specific partners that they likely have, of course, these partnerships with, and said, look, we're going to drive some awareness. We can measure how many people are tweeting about a particular product when they buy it. And American Express, the purchases have to be made with American Express, right? So they're still pushing people to use an American Express. If you want a discount, well, what do? You suddenly see people tweeting, and you're like, oh my gosh, these guys are tweeting about Xboxes, and I want an Xbox, and I want to get a discount. So now I've got to go and apply for American Express so I could take advantage of this discount here. So this discount, it starts to feel a little bit like a Living Social or a Groupon, which probably a much, much less steep discount on a per product. We're not getting 50% off or something like that, because if we are, I'm going and hitting American Express and applying today. So it's interesting with no real, they could do this, I guess, potentially every month, and have different partners. Right now, it sounds like they're really only committing to do it this month. And unfortunately, today is the last day. So as we do the show, anybody who's hearing the show, today is the last day that they're supposed to be, I believe.
It goes till March 3rd. Today is the last day. There's two phases to it. So
okay.
Today is actually the first day for their partner offers, which is things like $25 American Express gift card, the Amazon Kindle Fire HD, that sort of thing. But to kick it off, they had a $25 American Express gift card that was sort of an offer in and of itself. And so it starts today, it goes through March 3rd. So it is a limited time thing. It's not something that they're like, hey, this is now the new way to shop via American Express, but it's a limited time promotion. They're testing it. Hey, they could bring it back at some point. Obviously, the process is in place, but for now, it is a very specific item at a very specific discount.
And most of these items, too, right, are not things that you kind of flippantly get. It's something that you have an intention to get. And so therefore, it's not like, okay, I'm getting $10 iTunes gift card. You're talking about potentially an Xbox or Xbox related items. The way that they're incentivizing people to kind of naturally use Twitter as a platform of promotion it reminds me of something that I ran into just yesterday. I went to a place here in Palo Alto called Paris Baguette. It's a little bakery type thing, cafe, and I was using the internet there for a couple hours to do some work while I was in the area. And in order to use Wi-Fi, when you bring up a browser, it actually pulls you to this Facebook application that basically says check in to here on Facebook, and we'll give you Wi-Fi access. And that was the way they did it. And so they're saying, look, trade us some promotional activity on your social network, and we will give you this free Wi-Fi. And in fact, it even had a little checkbox that said, check this off to automatically check you in from now on. So every single time you want to use the Wi-Fi. And I thought it was pretty ingenious. It was very simple and so on. This takes it to a different level, kind of, to do that. To say, look, if you just tweet about this, it takes it to another level, because it's not only a discount now, it's not as trivial as a free Wi-Fi. It's actually, you're spending potentially a few $100s, for instance. I keep looking at the Xbox, assuming that, you're buying an Xbox. I didn't get to see exactly what the item is.
Yeah, it is. It's a 4 gig Xbox for $179. They've got the Kindle Fire HD for $149. And
that's normally $200, right?
Yeah, that's $50 off. The Sony Action Cam for $179. It sort of seems like the 25 to 30% off is the discount they're going with here. So the $25 American Express gift card for $15, that's basically 40% off, but it's also the American Express card. So that's something that they have a lot more control over. So that's probably going to be your highest discount at 40%. So, it's not, like you said, it's not 50% off here. It's 25 to 35%.
But it's still significant, right? It sounds like it is for me. I mean, to get a Kindle Fire HD for $150 versus $200, that's a good discount.
Yeah, and it's something that doesn't often get discounted. So the Amazon Kindle Fire, that's sort of at a fixed price. It's a lot like Apple's items where you don't really see them go on sale. So something like this, even if it's, $20 off or $50 off, that's actually a pretty decent sized discount for that item. So this could actually motivate people to either redeem it or to potentially sign up for American Express to redeem the offer.
What it sounds like to me, the one last thing that came up when you were saying that is it sounds like it is they're leveraging a time-based promotion, event-based promotion, meaning that they have, it's a certain time that it's going to end, this discount's going to end. They have a certain amount of product. They said that if the product runs out, if they only have 200 Fires, Amazon Kindle Fires, and they run out of those in the first week, then you can't get those the second week. So they're kind of playing off the sense of urgency to try to get people to not only potentially sign up, like you said, but if they are signed up, to then use their current Amazon card as a way to spend that money. Not Amazon, but American Express.
Yeah, it definitely feels, I think you nailed it with American Express just wants to continue positioning themselves as the go-to card for heavy social media users. I wanted to walk through the process real quick because I think it's kind of interesting how they went about it. At first I was like, how are they going to even fulfill this? Like, if I just accidentally send a tweet with a hashtag, did I suddenly buy an Xbox? That seems kind of ridiculous. So the process is you go to sync.americanexpress.com/Twitter. You sync up your eligible card, which does have to be an American Express card. So that's their opportunity to sign up new users. I do see this as kind of, yes, it's nice. It's a good reward for existing American Express users, but I think their primary target is probably new American Express users. So once you've synced your card, you then tweet out the special hashtag for the product that you want to purchase. And they actually announce these hashtags on the @American Express Twitter account. So they'll tweet out and say, get a Amazon Kindle Fire HD for $149, use the hashtag Amazon Kindle Fire or something like that. And then they take that tweet and they favorite it on their own account. So you can go to American Express's Twitter account, go to the favorites, and it sort of becomes a little store during the time that this promotion is live. So you tweet that hashtag, they then tweet you back with a specific hashtag. So it's probably just a random string of numbers. It says, hey, thanks for your interest in the Kindle Fire HD. Confirm your purchase with hashtag ABC123. And then you reply to Amex, you say ABC123. They link up and they say, okay, this account who already tweeted that they want the offer, then tweeted the confirmation hashtag. That is a confirmed purchase. They already have your billing address because that's where they're sending the bill to. So they just ship the product to that billing address. They use free 2-day shipping, which I think is a nice little perk. It's not something where, I got all excited about this Xbox and now I got to wait 3 weeks because they're, saving $10 by shipping it snail mail. They are doing free 2-day shipping. And so overall, the process is pretty seamless. The weird part is that they tweet you this hashtag and you have to tweet it back within 15 minutes in order to confirm. Otherwise, I guess you have to restart the process. They didn't really say what would happen if you didn't tweet back your specific hashtag. But I think in terms of the process, they did work out a lot of it to make it pretty smooth and seamless. So that part makes sense. It's just the overall goal, if their whole thing is let's make American Express the card for social media users, then they continue to impress me. So I think they've done a good job of that. But, in terms of revolutionizing online retail, I don't think this is it. I think it's pretty stunty and, hey, we're talking about it, so it's working, but it's not something that I would recommend other brands look at and say, oh, could we do something similar? Could this be our Twitter stunt? I think that, there's a lot of complication involved. There's shipping, there's fulfillment. So something like an American Express can handle that, but for a smaller brand, it's just going to be too much hassle for the very far removed connection to the actual promotion.
So beyond that, what's the takeaway? I mean, I heard you talking about how, larger brands, especially somebody like an American Express, although the process seems kind of step by step, I still also think it's a bit complicated. But what do you think in the end that the average brand, a brand that may not have as much capital or ability to experiment like this, what could they take away from this this campaign?
Yeah, so a couple things. The first would be, I'm going to go back and harp on the thing that I always say, which is incentivize people to talk about your brand, to share your brand, to interact with your promotion. So in this case, American Express is basically paying people $10 to tweet to get the buy Amex gift card 25. You're basically saying, hey, participate in this thing, get a fun story to tell. Maybe you tell a couple friends, oh, check this out. I just got a $25 gift card for tweeting a hashtag. And they say, oh, what credit card did that? And then you say American Express. And that's sort of that word of mouth that they're going after. So American Express, they put their money where their mouth is. They said, hey, we're going to give good deals. We're going to give good offers. It's not a lot of engagement. All you have to do is send one hashtag. So they're not saying, follow us and retweet the next 17 things we say, and you could have a chance to win. It's like, you take one action, you're getting the deal, that you're participating in this. So they're incentivizing it, and I think that's going to work for them. I think putting the incentive up front and making it something that people would actually want to do, that's important. And then I think the second thing is that at a certain point, it sort of feels like, well, Twitter's so big and every idea has been tried, but then they do something like this, and it shows that there are opportunities to get creative and do something that still has PR value inside of Twitter. I think that the days of, you run any campaign and you can PR it and blogs are going to pick up on it, those are over. You've got to be a little more creative, but this is a good example of an idea that is creative enough to get coverage on mainstream websites, news organizations, podcasts. It gets people talking. So I think that don't lose faith that, the buzzworthy Twitter campaign is a thing of the past.
And they go back to the kind of time-based stuff or the scarcity-based stuff. It will be run out. The opportunity to do this will run out only in a couple weeks. So it's not one of those things that the folks that want to jump on these discounts are going to be able to do after something in the beginning of March. And then also due to they specifically say, and we don't know what the actual stock numbers are of how many items they have in stock of each of these things that they're selling to folks, but they're saying we have a limited stock. If you want a particular item, you got to jump on it. And so it's almost a little bit reminiscent of almost like a Black Friday sale, where there's only a certain amount on Amazon.com when they do their online sales, or a Cyber Monday sale, and they say, come over here. It's 24 hours only, and we only have X amount in stock. Come and take advantage of it. And it kind of wakes the interested parties up and gets them jumping on it. So I think that's another interesting way of taking advantage of that and not making this necessarily an ongoing thing. By limiting it, it actually can kind of instill a sense of urgency into the campaign.
So, Adam, next up, sounds like we've got a tool review for something that you've been checking out called Screener. Maybe we could dive into that now and talk a little bit about what Screener is and why companies might be interested in checking it out.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. And there was a couple of these out there. There was another one called Screen Jelly, and I just looked today because it was so over the last couple of years, I've used these tools on and off, and Screen Jelly is not even available anymore. And Screener happens to be kind of the more robust, cleaner, more integrated into a lot of these other services type of tool. But the bottom line is what Screener does is, like, Corey, have you ever wanted to communicate something to somebody, whether it was to show them how to use a social network, or communicate something that was on a document, or not a document, but maybe some graphic that was created by a designer, and be able to talk and to kind of let somebody see your mouse moving around, but basically record your screen, but do it fairly quickly in order to help communicate, because an email just wouldn't do, a phone call just doesn't do, and quite possibly setting up even just a screen share with somebody live on something just was a little bit inconvenient. You ever think you might find use for that?
I could definitely see myself using it. It's funny that I often forget that this is even an option, because a lot of times you've got to have expensive tools and you've got to work through the process. But for instance, I put together a how-to guide for updating a WordPress backend that we had developed for a site recently. And I was doing it inside of Word, and I'm doing screenshots of buttons to say, click this button, and okay, now you're going to look for this menu. And now that we're talking about it, it makes me realize I could have just done like a 5-minute screen share and walked through the whole process and said, all right, follow my mouse. I'm going to walk you through this whole thing. And it probably would have been a lot easier to follow than a Word doc with some screenshots in it. So I definitely could see myself putting this to good use.
Yeah, and so what Screener does is instead of having to download software and put it onto your computer or purchase it or anything, it does it right from the browser. So it uses some plugins directly in the browser, and you just kind of do a couple clicks, and boom, you're starting to record your screen. It lets you log in with a Screener account, but additionally, you can link things like your LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter account as well. I think maybe even Google Plus to your Screener account. And in a little while, you just click a couple things and boom, you're recording whatever's on your screen. You're recording your audio. I don't remember if there are any limits when it comes to things that are going through the browser, because browsers can be finicky. I'd say this is probably best for something that's anything from a minute or two to 5 or 10 minutes at the very, very most. If you really want to stretch it, the last thing you want to do is try to record something and have your browser crash on you or something like that because it's finicky. But they have a free version that allows you to do this. And the catch with the free version is on the Screener website, they have a public stream. So whenever something is recorded, based on when it's finished being recorded and it's basically chomped on and made ready by Screener system within a minute or even seconds there, it's available to people publicly. And so the best use of Screener in regards to the public and free version is to maybe record things that you don't mind people seeing you show others how to do. If it's something that's, private for a client or something like that, it's definitely not something that you're going to want to use initially to do something like this. But even more so, you can take these videos and you can actually tweet them out. You can share them on Facebook, and you can have an embed code. So if you were doing something to help augment a blog post or some other thing that you're doing on, again, your blog, your website, or one of these social networks, Screener is a great option because you want it to be seen by a number of people. If you do decide that you want to do something that you want to make private, then there is a paid version of Screener that starts at, I think, $19 and goes up. And I forgot what the brackets are, if it's an amount of hours or minutes that you save it and so on. But for a free tool, I think it's pretty awesome to be able to do that without having to worry about starting up a piece of software on your computer, buying it, whatever the case is. Most people don't need those sorts of things on an ongoing basis, but when you do, it's nice to know that there's a tool out there that records your screen. And from what I remember, my experience, you don't have to only record your browser when you use it. It uses your browser to kick things off, but you can record anything at all on your computer. So check out Screener. Screener is Screener like it sounds, but it ends without the E. So it's SCREENR.com, and pretty straightforward on how to use it once you get there.
Yeah, it does look like there is a 5-minute limit. I looked through a bunch of videos, and there were quite a few that were right at 5.00, but nothing higher. So it looks like there's a 5-minute limit, but that's still plenty of time. I think that if you are looking to do more than 5 minutes, it's probably not the right tool. You should be doing a webcast or something like that. There are some interesting examples. If you look on the homepage, they've got popular screencasts, and one of them is NetTuts. It's a web development tutorial site, and I've actually seen it before. It's kind of a thought leader in the web development space. So they put together a little screener that shows how to create pure CSS reflections, and that's a great marketing tool for their site and their service. People watch that. They might be searching for CSS reflections. They could come across this screener, watch the video, say, hey, that actually did teach me something. Suddenly they're diving deeper into NetTuts to learn more about where else they can get lessons from them. So I think if you are the type of business that, you benefit from teaching people things, you benefit from showing them processes or how to improve certain things that they're doing, Screener seems like a go to at least test it out and say, hey, let me create a couple of these, see if people view them, see if people share them, and see what happens with it. So I like it. I think it's an interesting tool to at least test around with and have some fun with.
So what time is it next here, Corey?
It is lightning round time.
Hey, did the Ricola helped you say that much clearer here, right?
Yeah, definitely. Huge improvements. Huge improvements.
We're not looking for any sponsors, right? You get Ricola or Halls. You guys could fight over who wants to be a sponsor for the show.
There we go. So we just got a single topic, but it is time sensitive and time related to the holiday that we've got upcoming. So I'll put 60 seconds on the clock and kick this one off. Ready and go. Foursquare put together a promotion called the Foursquare Dream Date, foursquaredreamdate.com, and it's basically a quick little portal into their website, and you can click 3 different buttons. One is find a flower shop, another is find a romantic spot, and lastly, find a candy store. Basically, it's a nice little front end. You click one of these buttons, it launches into Foursquare's Explore feature, which I'm a huge fan of. It does the search based on where it thinks your computer is located. So it's basically, you click find a romantic spot, it does a search for the word romantic, it tries to geolocate in your area. Clever idea, though for me it didn't even work. When I click romantic, and even right now I just clicked it again, it says, sorry, no results. So, I'm in the San Francisco area. If anything's going to return results, it's going to be this area. So I don't know if it's broken, if something's not working on it. Interesting to see them continue to promote Foursquare Explorer, though unfortunately this one just didn't seem to be fully thought through. Alright, Adam, 60 seconds on the clock. Do you see yourself planning a date with Foursquare's Dream Date? Ready and go.
No, is the short answer, but I mean, it's definitely, if the buttons down below don't make it as interesting as the fact that it's got this little button at the top that just says, boo, I don't care. I don't know if you saw that up there, and it kind of rocks back and forth every now and then to kind of tease you. And it's for the folks that say, I don't got somebody in my life that I'm going to be spending Valentine's Day with, or Valentine's Day sucks. And when you click it, it turns the Dream Date page into basically the Dream Hate page. It's black instead of pink, and you're, kind of crossing out all the hearts and stuff. And so, all in all, I mean, I just think it's probably somebody in the office said, hey, what could we do that was kind of right around the time of Valentine's Day to make something cool that would potentially get people to talk and share and so on. This page that would also show off our Explore feature. And I think it's pretty cool. I mean, we haven't looked online to see how many folks are talking about it on Twitter, but I imagine it's got a few eyes on it from, say, Twitter and Facebook and other social shares.
Yeah, it's got 147 tweets of the Dream Hate site and 246 of the Dream Date site. So 400 total tweets, not exactly a raging success. Kind of a, clever concept. It is nice to see him pushing Explorer, but this one feels like a dud. I'm going to give it a thumbs down.
Yeah, I agree. If we measure it by what we see here on the social share bars, it's not really doing much. And then what happens after, it's not, I mean, it could still stay up, I guess, but it won't have the impact right after Valentine's Day.
All right, well, we covered a lot of great stuff this week, and there's plenty more to think about as these stories unfold. But if you have any questions for us, if you'd like to suggest a topic for a future episode, if you want to give feedback on the stuff that we just covered, or even if you just want to say hi, we highly encourage you to do that. We would love to get to know our audience a little better, and there's a number of ways that you can do that. First of which is to contact us via Twitter. So both Adam and myself are available at SoLoMo Show, or you can reach myself directly. I'm at Corey O'Brien.
And I'm at Secret Sushi. You can also email us. We have a Gmail account, which is SoLoMoShow@gmail.com. That's SoLoMoShow@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook page where we share things that we actually are finding interesting throughout the week between Corey and I both. So you can check that out there and become a fan and share some of the things that we have on there. Also on Google+. And we have a Pinterest account where we have been putting up, we have a number of boards and a number of them that are putting up our YouTube videos where we have our podcast and some images that correspond to what we're talking about during the show. So go on over there, follow us, and repin our content to your heart's delight.
There we go. And all of the links that we discussed today, as well as the links to the social channels that we just mentioned, can be found in the show notes. And if you're wondering where to track those down, it's pretty easy. Just go to SoLoMoShow.com. Each episode gets its own blog post, which includes all of the show notes that we discussed. And oftentimes it includes show notes that we didn't get to discuss. Maybe it's deeper links into the stories that we covered, other stories that sort of are tangentially related. A lot of interesting stuff there, so definitely encourage you to check that out. If you don't want to go to SoLoMoShow.com, you can also normally view these show notes in your podcast player of choice. Every podcast player is going to be a little different, so you got to hunt around, but there should be an option to view show notes. So definitely do that, check that out, and give those a read. And with that, we will call this one a wrap, and we hope that you come back next week to join us for another great episode of The SoLoMo Show.
Take care.